Hey, it's 28 millimeter RPG here. It's Rick. Uh, a tweet here from Grendel13. He's got a funky American flag and a pirate flag and a blue check mark. Hey, look, I have a blue check mark too. Isn't that cool? All right, he asks, please tell me what a pro DM is and how it actually works. All right. So I'm going to go on a little bit of a story here. I'm going to try and make it quick. I don't want this to be a very long video. So Grendel, a long time ago, I used to be in a gaming group. I got into this gaming group with this guy named Ted. Ted was a little bit younger than me, but I had been around, been in first and second edition D&D at that time. This is back in the 80s, okay? So all the dungeon masters and stuff, they would be like, they would like railroad games and stuff like that, or do something really weird and silly. They were like, teenage years kind of idea. But this is when I was in my mid 20s to late 20s when I met Ted. And Ted was a few years younger than me, a guy from America. I'm of course up in Canada. But he relocated into Canada and resided there with his family. He had a wife, kids, all that stuff, and he would play these Dungeons and Dragons games. So it was basically, it was kind of crossing between the first to second edition. So we were kind of taking rules from each. But the thing was, he was the only game master that I saw that he would present a game. He'd say, "Hey, you want to get into this?" And there would be a bunch of guys going, "Yeah, yeah." He'd say, "Okay, everybody, stay in character. This is this was his rule. Stay in character." So he would start presenting the game. He didn't have like a DM screen or anything like other guys would have. He would just sit on his couch. He'd have like maybe a pad of paper with some notes on it, but it wasn't much. He didn't even have like a module or anything like that. He would just be, telling us what was happening, and he'd be like, and like all around us. And then we would react, we would be trying to stay in character and do the things, explain what we were doing or what we were saying. So we couldn't say anything out of context, like out of character kind of talk. That was the rule. So it was really good game sessions too. Like, it wasn't like he was, I guess, making some stuff up, but he allowed us to go everywhere that we wanted to, do what we wanted to, and suffer the consequences of what we did. Right. So, it was great. It was, he would have these games that would end up being fairly long campaigns, being like many sessions, like maybe about 20, 24 sessions in a row kind of idea. But these would be like, sporadically throughout the year kind of idea. Like every week or couple of weeks, we would do these sessions that would last maybe about 3, maybe 4 hours. So, and I was kind of looking at that going, well, this isn't the way I game master. And I really wanted to know how to crack the code on how he was doing this with so little notes, but he was like coming up with stuff. It was great. It was very fluid. It was the world was believable, and we were creating the world basically as it was unfolding. With some of our own ideas, because some of us had like little bits of character background. Me, my character, I didn't have much of background. It was like, I came from the Redwood Isles and I was like on a pirate ship and I'm like a mercenary, and I decided I had enough of this piracy thing. So that was my first level kind of thing. And it wasn't much. It was just written down, and I was some big warrior, and I did things. And I ended up having one of the best adventures in my entire life with Ted. So to kind of come to this day and age, I left the hobby because I was working and all that stuff. So when I came back, I ended up trying to play this way with people that were in third edition. This is like 2007 or so. So I was playing with a group of guys doing Castles and Crusades, and they were using the virtual tabletop, and I was like, oh, what's this? Okay, everybody's playing with these maps and stuff, and we're running tokens everywhere, and it was just like, oh, this is like taking forever. It was like the combat was such a slog. It was taking like, hours on it. And I'm not the type of guy that wants to go ahead and have like, 3-4 hour sessions. I would rather have like an hour and a half, 2 hours max kind of session. Okay. Because that's all my time allows me for. So anyways, I thought people were this wasn't a new thing. Playing on maps, doing the board gamey thing. Everything is board gamey. So board gamey it was. So I continued on this board gamey way for a while, thinking, okay, this is the new way that we play. All the rules kind of lead to board gamey elements. You look at 5th edition, it's board gamey. Look at all the rules. The rules are board game rules in there. Okay, it gives you indicators of how you can move, or how many squares you can move, how far, how the cone works on the like a magic spell and an area of effect and all that stuff. And I'm like, okay, this is a board game. There's nothing wrong with playing a board game. It's if that's what you want to do, play the board game. But if you want to be a pro GM, I would rather go to back to the TED era. And the guy who got me kind of hooked back into it again and convinced me, hey, maybe I should be doing theater of the mind and this kind of what Ted was doing, was Shauner. So me and Shauner talked about different things. I'm like, okay, I told him, my old game master Ted used to do this, so I'm kind of looking at what was important in the game and how to set up your game and stuff like that. Now, the most important thing a game master can do is work on his NPCs. You must know exactly what the NPCs, what their goals, what their loves, their hates, all that stuff. So most of your focus in a game as you create it is going to be NPC driven. Now, as a game master, you should always stay in narrator form. So, which means when you work with your players don't ask you, the narrator, questions, because you're kind of like the god of the world, and God doesn't answer people. So he just does the things. NPCs come along. You can, as a game master, you can talk through the NPCs and let players know different pieces of information. But when the characters ask basically something, they have to ask through their character. So that's the whole thing. You must have a session 0 to set this all up. Otherwise, it won't work, because your players are thinking, oh, we're going to have maps and minis. But no, this is going to be theater of the mind, because what's going on here is the most powerful thing in the universe. Your mind. Your mind will tell you what is the most horrible thing you've ever can conjure up. Your nightmares, all that stuff. Your mind can also tell you that what's the most joyous looking thing that you can ever imagine. So your brain is a thing that tells you personally as a player, what's good, what's bad, all that stuff. The game master can trigger these things by just describing stuff. And that's key here. Okay, so let's get down to the brass tacks of what I would imagine is what a pro DM would do in an actual game situation. So I have a couple of notes down here. So you see me looking down, because I had to kind of just write this out so I can kind of keep this short and sweet, because I tend to ramble on if I don't. So the pro DM promotes player agency. So the players move, say, and do everything on there. But the game master does not move the players. He doesn't interact with the players except to give descriptions. as the narrator form. If the players want to ask an NPC, ask them. That's what you do in the real world, right? You know, if you want to know something, look it up on a computer, right? We don't have computers in the fantasy world, so you have to ask somebody else, right? So you go approach somebody in the town, and you say, "Hey, sir, you hear of any kind of work around here or something?" And then the NPC would go, "Oh yeah, John the blacksmith wants this special kind of metal in this old forgotten mine, right?" And like I'm making this stuff up. I don't have it written down. I just have just the notes to keep me kind of. But that's what the game master has to do is think of ideas. He might have a list of kind of cool stuff that he thinks that he might want to put together. Yeah, search the mind for a certain kind of metal and blah blah blah. Maybe out of the deal, the characters can get like a cool weapon out of the deal, right? Or something like that. So the thing is, the game master should not railroad the players at all. Don't ever do that. You also learn that as a game master, your mouth is your worst enemy. So if you're describing something like, okay, well, this mine is off in the mountain, just say that. If you go like, well, you go through the dreaded swamps and then through the trees of Arcane and then through the players are going to go, oh, there's all these cool places we can visit along the way. If you only have what's ready for the players, it's going to be ready. Now, a lot of times you'll want to have like the players enter in the initial first scenario right at the doors of this cave that has this metal that the blacksmith wants. Okay. So you start them there and they go on. I don't ever start players in a tavern or something unless that tavern is going to be like burnt down within the next 5 seconds, or there's going to be like trolls coming in and winging around battle axes at everybody. That's the only reason why I would start anything in a tavern. It's got to be action right off the bat. I know all these players have these elaborate, backstories and stuff. Don't promote that. Just have them do a couple sentences because, what counts is not the backstory. What counts is what they do in the story, in the game itself. That creates the story, okay? So you don't have a story in your mind as the game master. That develops through the interactions of the players with the NPCs, what they do, what the NPCs do in order to compensate for what the players do, good or bad or whatever. The evil bad guy that you have in your idea has a plan and he wants to do this and that, and the pesky players are getting in the way, so he's gonna either send some henchmen down to kind of straighten things out, perhaps sway the players onto his side if they seem to be fairly competent. If not, he will send people out to outright kill the players in order to get them out of the way, so to speak. So that all develops during the gameplay. It's not like you plan all this stuff. You just have basic, okay, this guy, he's in the castle, he's a lord, and he's like this way, and he wants this. Then we have a wizard over here, and he is this way, and he wants this. So you have all these, NPCs that want or need or have, things for the players to do in order for them to gain something. So it's the interaction between these things that make what a story becomes, flourish within the play activity that you are creating. Also, keep in mind, a lot of game masters may do the combat where it's like it takes hours. Okay. I'm sure you've had a few times there, Gwendol, where you've been in a session and you get a little bit of role play in there. And then suddenly it's like, okay, a combat, and it just takes forever. Bang, 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 bang. It just, put it this way. if it's something like Skyrim or something like that, this is what Shauna says. If it's something like Skyrim and he's clobbering a Draugr, he wants that Draugr to go down within a couple of hits. Sure, Draugrs are pretty tough and everything, but a couple of hits and yeah, they should be finished. The tougher Draugrs should be like maybe 4 hits or something. 5 hits will take him down. Then you meet like the head Draugr, and he's like big and scary. Those guys would maybe take about 6 or 7. Now the thing is, you're going, well, how do you count the hit points and stuff like that? Well, for the player end, yeah, hit points are kind of the thing. I play Traveler, so Traveler hit points aren't very much. You die fairly easily in Traveler. I would suggest getting into having a mechanic that emulates that. It makes it more realistic. Fighting is gonna kill people, so you want that to happen. If say for example, I am setting up combat with some critters against the players. So they're low level. They're going to be 1 hit. You hit them and they're going to be dead. Thing is, you roll the hit. You tell the players to go ahead and roll damage. Now, if the players roll really high damage, well, then if you are in the idea that you describe as the game master, the damage that occurs, cool. You can have heads lopping off and all kinds of awful things, blood splattering and all that stuff. Whatever you feel like, make it cinematic, make it quick and dirty and have those movie type moments. Now, when the monsters hit the players, right? You count the points as per game mechanic that you're using. If it's Traveler, it's a number of D6s that come off the players, the strength, dexterity, or endurance. But in Dungeons and Dragons, it'll be like hit points, right? So let me have a drink. Hot chocolate. This stuff's good. So back to the combat. You want to be fairly quick. If there's monsters that are have more heavy duty, take 3 hits to take down. If the players roll a really high damage roll, take 2 points off of them. I tell you, this makes things much more easier for you as the game master, because instead of ticking off all these hit points and adding things up all the time, no, it's just like whack. If it's easy, if it's super high rolls, and maybe even take 3. It's whatever you decide. What makes it more cinematic? Okay. Second thing, if you're doing the theater of the mind thing, which I highly recommend, okay. Now the reason why I recommend this is because, once again, the brain is the most imaginative kind of thing. So, say for example, the players are entering like a dungeon, and they find this cave and they open the entrance and they move in. They're like looking around. So you describe that there's these stalagmites and stalactites coming up and down, and it's dark. So you gotta the players go, okay, well, I'll light a torch, and he's looking around, and they're all kind of they say that they start moving in slowly, gradually, checking things out. You describe the entire area, but it doesn't matter where things are in that area. Once you describe something, the stalactites, stalagmites, or whatever, they're there for the players to imagine where they are, okay? If there's a sudden combat that happens, say something comes down from the ceiling and sticks itself onto John the thief and starts pulling him up into the stalagmites and stalactites, well, The players are gonna go, oh, "What's up there? We're and they're and talking to each other, right? Because they have to talk to each other. What's up there? Do you see what's going?" And then you describe, well, this great big thing with the maw and a big eye, and it's like drool coming out of its mouth, teeth, and it's got like multiple arms coming down and trying to attach themselves onto the players, and they're dragging the players up, and then players are screaming, you just you play it like that. You don't tell them it's a roper, okay? You don't tell them it's a roper or whatever monster it is. You let their imagination fill all that. They're thinking eye, mouth, let their imaginations take over that kind of thing. If you want to describe a bugbear, you're a big, hairy beast, 8 foot tall, with a big morning star. It's got pointy ears, and it's got green eyes, and it opens his mouth and goes, and the players are going, Bigfoot, or whatever. It's up to them to imagine what they're seeing. It's much better for them to picture that in their mind instead of saying, well, you see 3 bugbears or whatever. No, that's really bad. You want the players to imagine and use their imagination. This is why I never call monsters out by their name. So I feel that is a pro game master thing. And once again, say we are in like a, maybe we're doing weird Westworld kind of gunslingers in the Weird West. Okay, that kind of an idea. So the players walk into like a room. They come into this room inside a building. Boom, they're looking in. What do they see? They see a table. They see beakers, Bunsen burners, and stuff like that on there. Over on the other side, they see barrels with some sort of sludge in them, some oily ook that they can see from their seeping out of them. You also see a set of stairs going up. Then all of a sudden, at the other end, these orcs come in with 6 guns and start going. Pow, 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 pow. Okay, everything's starting to happen. So the players go ahead and roll to start shooting and everything. So they're shooting. You're just taking off. These, maybe the orcs take 2 hits or something like that. So you just keep that in mind. So you have your orcs written down, 1, 2, 3, whatever, 5 orcs. Now the players can go ahead and interact with anything in that room you described within that moment. You can have the players go ahead and kick over that table and use it for cover. You can have the players grab the Bunsen burner, rip off the cords, and with the gas in there, ignite it and start using it as a flamethrower. Another guy could go ahead and start kicking over those barrels. The goo sloshes everywhere, creating a slippery yet flammable area, which goes all over the gunslinging orc's feet. If a player wants to go run up the stairs to go suddenly retreat that way, he can do that. The players imagine where these things are. You, as a game master, don't have to place anything. You just describe it. Okay. That makes things work real fast, real quick, and you get a lot done in a 90-minute session than you would in other people's games doing like a 3, 4, 8-hour game. Because I can't stand. If people are going to have those kinds of games, I'm out. Okay. As a player, I want to have a cinematic experience myself. So I'm giving you some ideas here on what it is to be a pro DM or game master. Feel free to go ahead and watch any of my live streams of my Traveler games. I am learning this, okay? You see me from going with, if you watch my earlier ones, I'm trying to use a virtual tabletop and using the maps and the tokens, and I'm just driving myself crazy because, I have to turn targeting on, targeting off, and, rolling dice here and there, and trying to making sure that it's triggering on the character to create the damage properly. It's madness. Don't do that. Go theater of mind in the use a virtual tabletop because they're great. Use the virtual tabletop for the player sheets, okay? Because you want to be able to see the player sheets. You don't want to be asking them, well, what's your strength, or what you, the game master, see what the strength is, or dexterity, and or whatever it is, or all their abilities. You know, you see that. You know what the players can do. Now, virtual tabletops also have usually die rollers. So use the die rollers. Those are really good. Use a virtual tabletop for an image if you really have to go ahead and get something, you know, within a common ground, which the players can all see and realize, now we know what we're looking at. You know, show them a picture right away. Don't describe something and then show them a picture. Show them the picture right away. This is what you see. Because if you start describing it to them, they're all having these visions with their mind's eye, and they're like imagining what it is, and then you throw this picture up and they're like, oh, that's nothing what I imagined at all. So they'll all be thinking different things. So show a picture right away if you need to go ahead and show a picture. Usually I would show pictures of maybe a scene of the city. They're coming down from the skies in their magical airship or a starship or something, and they see the city. So you go ahead and show them the picture of the city. They're all locked on. They all see the city. They all know what it's all about. They can see the cute little spires and stuff like that, and maybe magical things, you know, flying around. If that's what you're into, that's what they see. Okay. But when it comes to like theater of the mind stuff, you know, let their imaginations take it where they want. It doesn't matter to me as a game master. You must let go of the control. That is key. Let go of your desire to control everything. The only thing you control are the NPCs. Okay, that is it. Let the players do what they want. So that's all I use in a virtual tabletop now. You can see me transition from using the maps and minis and me finally saying, enough of this. We are going to do this the hard way, the role play way, the theater of the mind way. And I had to have a discussion with my players and say, okay, we're going to do theater of the mind. So, and I outlined exactly how this was going to work. I told them, you know, what you imagine is what you imagine. Always stay in character. Okay. Always, you know, if you need to ask something like get a little bit more specific, say that you're moving in and looking at something specifically and you're trying to figure it out. You know, it could be you're looking at the chest and you're trying to figure out if there's a trap on the chest or something. And I would describe there is, it does not look like there is any apparent traps on it. And then the player will go ahead and, okay, I'm going to go ahead and try to pick the lock. So I'm standing in front of the chest, picking the lock. So if you have some pressure plate or something, and he didn't say that he was going to test the pressure plate or anything in front of the chest, then he may trigger something that could happen. It's, you know, you decide as a game master what this thing is and describe the consequences or things that occur. So let the players say what they're doing. Don't move them around, like teleport them from place to place and stuff like that. I'm learning this too. You know, if you're watching my live game sessions, you know, you'll see me, you know, in some instances, pull myself back and let the players discuss what they're going to do. They're coming up with these plans, you know, how to avert the catastrophe that's befallen them right now. The ship is falling from the sky and they have to do something. So those are exciting moments all in, and I only do 90-minute sessions each time. 90-minute episodes is what I do every Sunday night. So if you feel like you want to watch something like that kind of looks like kind of feels like you're listening to a movie and these players are doing interesting, weird things, tune in. Otherwise, yeah, you know, just take some of my advice and roll with it. if you want any clarification on this, ask me. My YouTube channel is open to everybody to query how I come up with this stuff. Okay. So as far as that goes, I think I have everything written down except for exposition sucks. Exposition sucks. I got to tell you that. Okay. Show, don't tell. If you have this big, deep, the king is the son of blah, blah, blah. And, and this blah, blah, blah was the hero of the realms because he slew the monster, blah, blah, blah. And whatever. Don't start talking like that to your players. Let the players slowly figure this out through the gameplay. They may see like murals and stuff like that in the king's court, and they're like, ew, what does this mean? And then the Sensual comes by and says, well, long ago, the king was the son of blah, blah, blah. And do it that way instead. Don't just spew out stuff as the narrator, because you're supposed to be like the narrator, and the narrator doesn't do Q&A sessions. So it's what Shauner calls was it Q&A? It's Mother May I. Yeah, don't do that. Okay, so don't kill the exposition. Let the players discover interesting things about the societies and stuff like that firsthand by experiencing them in gameplay. Okay. That's all I have to say. So hopefully that 32 minutes of what I've just said, gives you some sort of insight on what I think a pro GM or DM is and how it works. It takes practice. You're not going to be a pro at it right away. It's going to take some time. You're going to have your players getting used to it, staying in character, and using their theater of the mind or the mind's eye and imagining things and having a good time with that. Because you stick with the board game kind of stuff, and it's just going to be a time soak. Believe me, it is a time soak. I've had other game masters say, "Oh no, my game is very quick," and then I watch their stuff, and it's like a 3-hour slog of these icons moving up a map, and then the fight and it is like an hour long. And then they continue up and they'd go around. They only did like a 3-angled corner of corridors. And it was 3-4 hours later. And I'm just like, no, this is not fast. What are you talking about? You got to have something occur quickly and cinematically if you want to have something fast. I know you probably want something quick and fast and provide you with some form of entertainment value that you can, at the end of the session, go, wow, that was one crazy experience. And then you talk to your friends, and that's the story that you came up with the entire thing. You don't want, like I say, the game master doesn't actually make the story. It's the players interacting with the things that create the story. Alrighty? Hopefully that clears everything up, or, mixes you up because I'm talking so quickly. But if you need anything, follow up. Just, let me know. And if you feel like subscribing, hit the subscribe because, I'm learning things from you. You're learning things from me. We learn from everyone here. And it's free. It's free to subscribe.